The U.S. is pouring weapons into the Ukraine war, while America is running out of its own ammo, because we depend on China and Russia. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The U.S. is spending a ton of money supporting Ukraine's efforts to counter Russia's invasion. This support includes weapon systems such as HIMARS, javelins, and howitzers. And most important of all, people on social media changing their profile pics to the Ukraine flag. These are the real heroes of the war. Ukraine has been using U.S. weapons to great effect against Russia, but in doing so, they're burning through millions of rounds of ammunition, which are also coming from the U.S. This is depleting U.S. ammunition stockpiles. U.S. defense officials say that aid to Ukraine isn't jeopardizing America's readiness for future conflicts, but some are concerned that we are running low on certain types of ammunition. Does that mean some people in America will finally stop being so numb and start caring about mass shootings again? We have to stop these lunatics. They're wasting ammunition. Although running low on civilian small firearms ammo isn't what's happening here. We're talking about ammo for the big guns, like 155mm artillery ammo and missiles. Hopefully you don't have those at home. The U.S. has given Ukraine well over 1 million artillery rounds, in addition to tens of thousands of Stinger Manpads missiles, HARM and Javelin missiles, and Gilmer's rockets. But the U.S. can't produce enough to replace them. That's because U.S. ammunition production has been in peacetime mode since the end of the Cold War. As a result, the U.S. doesn't have the capacity to produce enough ammo for long, high-intensity conflict for certain weapons systems, which is crazy. Hearing the U.S. can't produce ammo is like hearing Taco Bell can't produce bowel obstructions. According to a September study by the think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the U.S. has about half of its Gilmer's rockets left, but it can currently only produce about 5,000 a year. The U.S. has also reportedly given away a third of its Javelin missiles. The current production rate for those is about 1,000 a year. The Pentagon's Undersecretary for Policy admits that there's no question that the war in Ukraine put pressure on America's own stockpiles. It put pressure on the U.S. defense industrial base. There's only one thing we can do about that. We need even more people to change their profile pictures. Hurry up and help the war effort, everyone. Meanwhile, the U.S. military is trying to ramp up weapons production. The U.S. Army awarded defense contractor Lockheed Martin a $521 million contract to replenish Gilmer's rockets. This is in addition to the $179 million contract awarded to replace HIMARS launchers and rockets, as well as the $300 million contract to replace Javelin missiles. It's going to be a Merry Christmas for Lockheed Martin this year. Just kidding, in America, every year is a Merry Christmas for Lockheed Martin. The U.S. is also spending millions of dollars to replenish other weapons, such as Excalibur, the most accurate U.S. artillery shell. But the U.S. military-industrial complex can't just replace stocks overnight. Currently, it takes 13 to 18 months from the time orders are placed for munitions to be manufactured. Replenishing stockpiles of more sophisticated weapons, such as missiles and drones, can take much longer. 13 to 18 months after placing your order. That's like when you order a deep dish pizza and they tell you it'll be at least 60 minutes to bake. Can we just get some New York-style thin crust missiles instead? If we really need to ramp up ammo production, it's theoretically possible to convert civilian industry to wartime production, like America did in World War II. But without the right motivation, that's pretty hard to do. Another issue making production even slower is government bureaucracy. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Pentagon's bureaucracy has been slow to provide new contracts to replenish its stocks and has been reluctant to share its long-term needs with industry. So they're bad at communicating and won't share their needs. Sounds like the Pentagon needs some relationship therapy. Getting weapons to Ukraine is already painstakingly slow, but the contracting process to get new weapons and ammo produced is even slower. It doesn't help that, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, even officials in Army organizations get confused about roles and responsibilities. Things like who's responsible for equipment maintenance and modernization can be unclear. No one knows who's in charge of maintenance and modernization? Glad to see the Army is run just like gas station bathrooms. And coordination as a whole is a huge problem in the defense industry. According to the Government Accountability Office, this can have real consequences. For example, in 2020, poor coordination among Army officials resulted in the Army purchasing a $2.8 million piece of equipment that couldn't perform the job it was purchased to do, which led to it being the most dangerous paperweight of all time. But there's another problem with U.S. ammo production. It's too reliant on China and Russia. More after the break. Welcome back. The U.S. is running low on ammunition, so it's trying to ramp up production by giving U.S. companies contracts to build more. But getting more ammo actually delivered takes time. It turns out missiles have a longer gestation period than elephants. But there's another threat to U.S. ammunition: America's reliance on China and Russia. You see, in order to produce ammunition, the U.S. needs an element called antimony. It's a metalloid that's used for things like computer screens, lead-acid batteries, flame-retardant fabrics, solar panels, plastics, and other essentials of the modern economy. It's also a really important strategic concern for the military. According to retired Army Major General James "Spider" Marks, and yes, I had to include his nickname because when people call you Spider, everyone better give respect. Antimony is a key ingredient in communication equipment, night vision goggles, explosives, ammunition, nuclear weapons, submarines, warships, optics, laser sighting, and much more. The U.S. has antimony deposits in Idaho, Alaska, Nevada, and Montana. So you'd think that the U.S. would mine such an important metal, but it doesn't. According to Metal Tech News, America depends on adversarial countries for more than 80% of its needs, with the rest coming from recycling. Recycling? Look, I'm all about sustainability, but I don't know how I feel about the government sorting their garbage by paper, plastic, and propelled explosives. This wasn't always the case. After Japan cut off antimony supplies from China to the U.S. in the lead-up to World War II, America resorted to mines in Idaho for 90% of its antimony during the war. The U.S. continued antimony mining until 1997, but then it stopped. Now, China and Russia are the world's leading antimony producers. Together with Tajikistan, they account for 90% of the world's supply. According to the U.S. International Trade Commission, China is not only the top producer, but also boasts the majority of antimony processing facilities. This could be really bad if China or Russia decide to escalate tensions with the U.S. Mostly because, hey, would you mind selling us the stuff we need so we can bomb you, is a pretty hard sales pitch. At least the U.S. House Armed Services Committee recognizes this problem. In a June 8th National Defense Authorization Act report, the committee said it is concerned about recent geopolitical dynamics with Russia and China, and how they could accelerate supply chain disruptions, particularly of antimony. There are problems with the recent geopolitical dynamics with Russia and China? What problems? I didn't notice anything. The committee goes on to say that without a reliable source of antimony trisulfide, U.S. small and medium caliber munition production to meet warfighter requirements could be vulnerable. Many, like General Spider, recognize that domestic mining of antimony is key to U.S. defense and its economy. And luckily, the U.S. Department of Defense is listening. The DoD is already looking into the potential for military-grade antimony production in Idaho. But like all things involving bureaucracy, it could take years for the U.S. to use its own antimony mines to produce ammo, since they're bad at communicating and won't share their needs. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. And if you like this show, remember that we rely mainly on direct support from viewers like you. All it takes is as little as $1 per episode over on our crowdfunding platform on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/America Uncovered for more. Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.